my number three is, what if the 49ers drafted or signed Tom Brady, because they had, similar to Aaron Rodgers, two opportunities to do this. They had a shot at him in the 2000 draft and the 2020 offseason. And it's just funny how many connections there are in this one too. He's from the Bay Area. He grew up here. He went to Sarah High School, an old boys private high school in San Mateo. There's a big failure in not signing him in retrospect, because the Niners did draft a quarterback in the 2000 draft in the round after Tom Brady. That's the hilarious part. He was drafted famously in the 6th round. He was the 199th overall pick of the draft. They ended up drafting Tim Rattay in the 7th round. And the reason why is they actually had a 6th round pick. They traded it to the Chicago Bears and the Bears traded for the Niners 6th and 7th round pick. And the Bears ended up wisely using that pick on wide receiver Frank Murphy. They waived him in August. They didn't even keep the damn player. The Niners draft Tim Rattay. The Patriots get what we now know is the greatest quarterback ever. So miss out on the hometown boy. They also miss out on him again after his contract expires with New England. He was a free agent, so you didn't have to give up anything for him. They look at him and go, we're good. Keep Jimmy Garoppolo, who had been hurt a couple times already. They know who the guy is. They don't trade for Brady. They have a poor season after that, riddled with injuries, especially to the quarterback. He wins a Super Bowl the year he's signed, with a good set of receivers and a good championship, a good defensive championship. So they miss out on him drafting him. They miss out on him as a free agent. So I have two what if scenarios for this because of that. Before I go into them, do you have any thoughts on this so far?
So the draft one, it's like, what if any team had drafted him, right? I mean, it's just such a remarkable story. It's not just that he was like a 2nd or 3rd or 4th round pick. He was, a 6th round pick. So that you could use that for every team, but they're the only ones that he had that, local connection. He's a Niners fan growing up, et cetera, et cetera. But so was Jared Goff. So you don't necessarily draft the guy that's a fan of your team growing up. But the bigger one, of course, is choosing Jimmy Garoppolo over him. This a couple off seasons ago. I think it seemed like a pretty clear-cut scenario. Some of the rumors were, they would send Jimmy back to New England for a low-round pick, 3rd or 4th, basically just to get off his contract. And New England was reportedly, more than happy to take Jimmy G back because they know the guy and they knew what he was capable of. They probably felt that they could get the best out of him. And I don't know if necessarily Brady elevates that Niners roster the way he does with, Tampa Bay, who had, an incredible, list of offensive weapons. But at the same time, he also brings some talent with him. People follow the GOAT. They want to ring chase. He gets, maybe not Antonio Brown, but he brings Gronk with him. And just imagine an offense that has, Rob Gronkowski and George Kittle terrorizing linebackers and safeties. So it's an interesting thought, and they very well could have been, one of the favorites in the NFC, and they probably would have been with Brady. So.
Yep, 100%. I agree with that. That was a mouth-watering combination, because Gronk would have followed him out of retirement just to block for him anywhere.
Basically anywhere that wasn't New England. He's like, I'll come out of retirement, stop doing wrestling, and I'll come play football again.
Yeah. So I have two what if scenarios. I think if they draft him, it's hard seeing them winning 6 Super Bowls. I just think that's just a freaking freak show of an event. He was pretty raw early. He benefited tremendously with that legendary defense with Willie McGinnis and all those other menacing Mike Vrabel and all those just menaces that they had in the 2000s. Young quarterbacks don't usually inherit, a top 5 defense of all time. As soon as, I mean, they stopped the greatest show on turf the first season he played. It's just incredible.
Unless they're like Ben Roethlisberger or something.
Yeah, maybe you're going to. Yeah. So he probably takes a few years, but he does possess that greatness in him. So it takes a few years. He wins 3 Super Bowls with the 49ers, but I don't know if they keep him. But he wins 3 somewhere along the way. He also gets Terrell Owens, by the way, in his like second or third year in the NFL. So before waiting until 2007 to get Randy Moss, his first elite wide receiver, he get a Hall of Fame level, amazing top wide receiver. He gets T.O., who's also in that pantheon of greatest wide receivers from the get-go. So that would have been fun. Now, the second what-if scenario is the Niners just sign him and they trade Jimmy G away. Hilarious full circle connection given their New England days with Jimmy and Tom Brady. It would have been a lot easier than trading away the farm for Trey Lance, who's only made 1 start and is going to make his second tomorrow at the time of this podcast. So you get a Brady that still evidently has some good years left in his 40s. He's playing in the Bay where he grew up. The defense is really good. They replicate Tampa Bay's first-year success, and they win an additional second Super Bowl as well.
I mean, it's hard to argue against that. We could have maybe made the case if he hadn't won a Super Bowl in Tampa, basically taken a wild card team and made them into the best team in the NFL. So yeah, it's hard to argue against that. And the irony is, I think a lot of teams, there are a few teams reportedly passed on signing Tom Brady. I think Tennessee was reportedly in the mix, and they chose Ryan Tannehill, which is like a double insult because Mike Vrabel, built his career as catching touchdown passes from Tom Brady, in addition to being an incredible linebacker. But yeah, it's an interesting thought. And I think if you're the 49ers, especially if the Trey Lance, era doesn't go well, I think you look back on it and wonder, we could have had the GOAT on our team for a few years and then, started the rebuild process, kind of later in the Shanahan Lynch, contractor experience.
Yep.